A big welcome. Okay, this course, this intermediate level course, will be focused on most of the SQL improvements from Snowflake. You'll learn about things that very likely you never heard about, and most of these things will be the norm soon in many other relational database vendors, commercial and non-commercial. My course here will be focused on unusual modern SQL. You know what Snowflake calls SQL improvements, okay? And I will mention here briefly, some topics we'll talk about in this course. Select exclude rather than specifying I don't know, maybe hundreds of column names in a select clause. You can select them all and specify the columns you want to exclude. We'll talk about the qualify clause. If your where clause includes a window function calls, it will fail because window functions are evaluated after the where clause. So this is why they added the qualify clause, and this stands for SQL itself. This is not just Snowflake. Just like match recognize, a very powerful clause or function to recognize patterns in the sequential rows. Okay, very powerful, especially for time series. Lateral, we call them joins, but actually lateral works with ANSI joins. And that's also a very powerful construct, just like ASOF joins. Yeah, when you cannot establish, direct equality between the foreign key and the primary key. You look for an interval. You look for the closest value. Exploding joins. Yeah, you'll have exam questions with this. You'll have to learn what's about, just like the directed joins. When you want to instruct the compiler to execute, to scan first the table on the left, you can add today a directed keyword. Fuzzy matching, yes, another hot topic today. Object oriented SQL, yes, they introduced in Snowflake classes with class instances with instance methods. Count if function. This solves the problem of counting by sum. Any value function. Once again, that's related to aggregation. Min max by function, very powerful constructs. Hybrid tables, supporting both workloads from OLTP and OLAP. Dynamic tables, to solve in the best possible way the problem of CDC. Multi-table insert, that's an extension for insert that can add in one single statement the data into multiple tables. The pipe operator, just like in Unix, you can chain different operations, in this case queries, one after the other. Similarity between sets, that's a modern topic, not just in machine learning, but also when you look at different sets of data, you need to evaluate the Levenstein or the Jacquard similarity. LLM query generation. Yes, we'll go into Snowflake Cortex, and we'll look also into Snowflake ML. Until recently, whatever changes, Snowflake was bringing, to SQL especially, we all used to pick up release notes, and to find in a random way, about all these improvements. But I see they already created today a page at Snowflake on the Snowflake documentation. Okay, I will leave you a link attached to this in the resource, and it is called indeed SQL Improvements. And they have the log of these improvements for the past 4 years. I'll just scroll down to get an idea, how long this list is. And I can tell you guys, my course here is focused on this stuff. And let's have a quick look at this. And if you don't know about most of these terms, the course is for you. Look at the improvements from 2025. Directed join, okay? Pivot, with aliases, whatever, resample with interpolation functions, to fix time series data. Very important. Order by all, union by name operator. pipe operator, spread operator, search function. Okay, and let's see, search function again, higher order functions with reduce. Okay, later on we'll have the transform and the filter, as of joins. Okay, let's see what else. Let's see what else. Range between. Yeah. So rather, what can I say? Complex stuff. Yeah. New functions. And make no mistake, a lot of us vendors, database vendors, implemented and continue to implement this because they have to keep up with the competition. So if you learn this, you'll not need this only for Snowflake, but you'll need it also this eventually to keep up with the new modern SQL. This is a summary of what they have already online. Yeah, the timeline of SQL improvements, and I have two slides here. I will walk over quickly over all this, and I can tell you that I try to cover most, if not all of them. Okay. In 2025, this is a past year. Okay, they came up with directed joins, pivot column aliases, merge with all by name, resample with interpolation, order by all, union by name, pipe operator, spread operator. Okay, search, yeah, the search function with and semantics, array AGG, array aggregation with row range frames. In 2024, full text search, higher order reduce, tabular store proc selection, extended range between, group by with I like exclude, wildcat for object constants, and pivot with include nulls, table for table ref, as of join, plus pivot with any, filter and transform, greatest ignore null, select with trailing commas. In 2023, array min max sort, select with like replace, group by all, round with bunkers, round in min max by, okay? In 2022, select with exclude rename, array except distinct, regex substring all. So this just gives you a glimpse of what we'll cover in this course. So here is how I organize the course sections. I will start with simplified queries, followed up by filters, where we'll cover all sorts of search by content. Joins, everything about joins in Snowflake. Aggregates, not just group by queries, but we look also into grouping sets and into window functions. Persisting data. Yes, that's about crude operations, but not only. Generating fake synthetic data, a hot topic today. Subqueries and CTEs, not just for Snowflake, but generally speaking. Grouping data, tabular hierarchical data, semi-structured data, procedures and functions, pipelines. If you're a data engineer, that's a hot topic for you. Snowflake scripting, and yes, we'll have a quick bootcamp to cover all Snowflake scripting. What Snowflake scripting is for Snowflake is what PLSQL is for Oracle or TSQL Transact SQL is for SQL Server. SQL for machine learning, okay? Very important. They created classes, yep, to cover different scenarios from machine learning. And finally, yeah, we look into Snowflake Cortex functions, and not only. We look into Snowflake Cortex basically, and we'll see what improvements Cortex brings to SQL. So, what are the areas of of SQL of the structured query language? What are the sub languages within this language? We'll be looking at the data definition language (DDL) with create, alter, drop statements. Yeah, to create objects, to modify them, and to remove them eventually. Okay, there are additional commands like comment use and very important comments, especially in Snowflake, show and describe. Show will display a list of objects, and describe will show the properties of one specific metadata object. You have then the data manipulation language, DML, with a typical insert and update operations. Yes, you have delete, you have also truncate, which runs like delete, but this will remove also the associated metadata. In Snowflake, you have merge also, and let's say within the same category, we can add explain to come up with a query plan of a select statement. Data query language, yes, DQL. This includes basically the select statement, and let's mention also call when you have to run a store procedure. Transaction control language, TCL. That's all about transactions. Begin transaction, commit or roll back a transaction. Okay, describe transaction, show transaction, or show logs. And finally, you have the data control language, DCL. This relates to user and roles, and this relates also to grant and revoke privileges, including granting a role to another role or granting a role to a user.